Welcome to the Brad and Taylor Show. Today we have Jay LaBoe.
You're listening to the Brad and Taylor Show, a podcast that inspires entrepreneurs to pursue their passions. We're sitting down with some of the best to learn how they got started and some lessons they learned along the way.
Hey, Jay.
Hi, guys. How you doing today?
We're good. How are you?
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get this started. What do you do?
So, in short terms, I'm a realtor. In the way I like to think of it, I assist buyers and sellers in the consultation of their buying and selling needs.
Awesome. I like it. So when you were younger, is this what you had planned for your future?
Absolutely not. When I was younger, I actually had aspirations of being an archaeologist. I was kind of set on that as a real little kid. Over time, that kind of turned into some other things. Music is a huge passion of mine. And that's actually when I went away to school for was sound recording and production. So the backside of the business is where I wanted to go. But, you know, as life has it, it takes you in different directions. And 23 years later, I'm here.
That's awesome. So what did you, how did you get into real estate? Like, how did you go from that to now selling houses?
So my history as far as jobs is been one of basically out with people, conversations. I started off as a bartender in my early 20s. So I think that's where I learned a lot of personal communication, one-on-one, kind of the ebbs and flows of how people act and interact with each other. And I got to a point where I said at around 26, I think I'm getting a little too old. I want to get a little bit more serious about a career. And I started with a company that sold Medicare Part D prescription drug plans here locally in the area. And that company was then bought out by a larger company, a Fortune 5 company. And I kind of set my path starting there. Started off as a customer service representative. And I had aspirations of getting into a management supervisor, director position. And I worked on that for about the 7 years that I was with the company and hit all my goals. And very goal oriented. And having a job like that in a large company definitely focused more of those skills that I was lacking previously and really honed. And then one day they came to us and said, hey, we're dissolving the department. We're moving operations out of state. Here's your severance check and good luck. And that was a real eye-opener for me because as I was raised, and a lot of people are, get in with a big company, there's security and everything else. Well, I learned that the hard way. And at the time, we had just bought the house we're in now. And our third child was on the way. And it was a really scary time. And as is for a lot of people that, you know, lose jobs and, you know, you have a lot of big things happening in your life. So my wife, the best person that I know, my best friend, looked at me and said, look, try to find what you want to do with your life. I was 34, going on 35 at the time, and kind of was in my life was in flux, I'll be honest. And after about 2 years of being a stay-at-home dad and taking care of the kids and everything, we got the fortunate news that we were pregnant again, and this time with twins. And I said to myself, you know, now it's time to get serious. Kind of do a deep dive on yourself, figure out what you want to do. And I had always been interested in real estate. The Sunday Showcase, the Howard Hanna Sunday Showcase, I would always watch on Sundays. I was always looking in the papers, poking my nose around developments and things like that. And I came downstairs one morning, my wife, and I said, I think I want to get into real estate. And she looked at me and, as God is my witness, said, I was wondering when you were going to come to that conclusion. And I said, get a job or get into real estate? She says, no, absolutely real estate. She's like, you've had an interest.
Yeah.
You took a big part of it when we sold our first home that we had lived in together. She's like, you have the personality, you have that drive to get out there. Why not go for it? She's like, I support you. And those were the biggest words
Mm-hmm.
that anybody could ever say to me, the most meaningful, that, she had my back. And here I am, now going into my fourth year of real estate. So
That's awesome. Yeah, having that support is huge. How did your first year go when you first got into it? Did you hire on a team, or were you kind of solo the first year? How did that go for you?
So my first year, I was absolutely solo.
Okay.
I took the approach, I could jump in, I could start selling, and just go at it. And I didn't have the skill set. I'd never done this before. So I really took my first year to really immerse myself in my brokerage and say, I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn through osmosis. I'm going to read books.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to learn from people that are actually doing the job. And for the first year, I was taking every possible continuing ed class that I could, every meeting, every broker mastermind, anything I could get my hands on. So really the first year, I think I took one listing, and it was with somebody I'd gone to high school with. They were having a bad experience selling their home, and a couple other agents. And I went in and guns a-blazing, thought I was going to, get this. And it was a huge learning experience. I learned so much from it. And honestly, it was my first failure in real estate. I didn't sell their home. As we always say, we always have a difficulty, with price points, and when we're talking about the market and everything, I guess I was trying to not offend them at first. And I've learned really quick that that's a hard thing to do, especially when you're consulting. You have to tell them this is what it is. This is what the market's saying.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot from that experience, and took that this was a good learning opportunity for me. Let's move forward on to the next one.
How long after that first one was it when you got your second one and things kind of started to pick up for you after that?
So that's a funny story. So actually, it was, I was sitting in a tattoo parlor in the chair getting a tattoo, and my tattoo artist, Chubbs Morris, I'll do a shout out to him at Monumental Tattoos, was talking about his sister, and she was getting to the point where she was getting ready to purchase her first home and move out of the nest and the whole thing. And I gave him my card, and then all of a sudden I hear from over on this side of the parlor, another artist came over to me, and he was like, "Hey, I'm currently looking, and I'm trying to get in these places, but I keep calling these agents, and nobody's getting back to me." I said, "Well, if you're not working with somebody, usually that person is the one that makes the appointments, gets you in
Right.
to look at these places." And he's like, "Oh, he was a young kid, didn't really know, how the process worked." So took him on as a client and got him his place. And then it just kind of started snowballing from there. So, referral business, that's the business that I wanted to create, those person-to-person relationships. And so if you have a good experience with me, you're going to want to tell somebody about it. And that's kind of when it started taking off. And, little bits and pieces here and there. And then it just kind of started snowballing to the point where I'm at this year. And I had with the kitchen remodel, I kind of put the business on hold. I knew I had clients coming up in the second half of the summer, but then with the way the market's been, just more people started calling me. "Hey, I'm looking for this." Other referrals started coming in from other lender partners. So it's been great. That's all I can say.
Awesome.
Incredible, as my broker Noreen Marlowe would say. When anybody asks you about how the market is, it's incredible. Good or bad, it's always incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. The things kind of, even though you had plans to kind of get the kitchen remodel done, that everything started coming in. It always works out that way. It always works out.
That's right. You got to get to work.
Yep.
To work. And that's really opened my eyes to now with the business. It's a business now.
Mm-hmm.
And now I have to start planning appropriately. That's everything from marketing and, going out there trying to ascertain other referrals, taking advantage of those lender partners, your title companies that you've worked with, over the last year or two, and, having those partnerships and being able to work with that. And again, living in sort of a post-COVID world at this point in time, with people kind of being able to get back out. That was one of the really hard parts for me during this time, was the person-to-person interaction, and everything being done through Zoom, and, kind of like, I guess, getting over a fear of being on camera sometimes. I mean, as odd as it sounds, especially coming from like a performance background with my music and everything, and you put something in front of you that has a light on it, and it's just something,
Yeah, you're not alone with that.
Yeah, and so it's been crazy.
That's funny that you mentioned the camera shyness. We are a photography company, and Brad and you wouldn't have seen us on a camera a year ago.
Yeah.
There's no way. No way. And now we're doing this. So It all works out.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing how these things come together.
Yeah. Over the last 4 years, what do you think the worst property is that you've been to?
Well, okay. So, funny story. So, I live in the Bainbridge Township. It's Chagrin Falls City area, and it's kind of rural. It's in Geauga County, and so my service area is basically Lake Geauga, Cuyahoga, parts of Portage County, and I mean, honestly, I've been out further, up further north sometimes. Just depends on the person and everything, what they're looking for, and if I'm able to do that for them. But
right.
We were in a more rural area of Geauga County, and I was taking a client through a home. He was looking for a fixer-upper, and we get there, and we're looking at the outside of the house, and we notice that there's some holes possibly where either vents were at, or AC ducting, or gas pipes or propane pipes, as it is sometimes out there. And I said, okay, well, we may be dealing with a situation where there may be an animal or something like that in the house. And I'm like, so I'm telling myself, just be prepared when you unlock the door. If there is something, get ready to bail. So we go inside, and we step in and close the door behind me. And he's starting to make his way through the kitchen. And when I closed the door, I noticed something on the ground. And it was probably about 6 foot in length. I mean, it was huge. It was a snake skin. And wow. I asked my client, I said, you don't by any chance have a fear of snakes? And he asked me why. And I showed him the shedded skin. And I have never seen anybody exit a home as quickly as this client did.
A 6 foot snake? Yeah.
It was the skin that had shed. I mean, it was, I should have taken a picture of it. I couldn't believe it. But he was getting ready to go downstairs to the basement. And yeah, he was like out the door in his car. And he's like, I just had a bad experience as a child with it. He's like, I didn't want to mess with it. So, I mean, that's one. I've had some run-ins with raccoons in some other homes that I've been in. So I think there's something with the animals in homes that are attracted to me on these showings. So I'm waiting on the next one, and that'll add to my animal stories in real estate. That's
funny. So that home with the snake skin, you didn't sell it? Not that one?
No, he didn't want that, unfortunately.
Ran.
So.
I would have ran too, though. If you imagine seeing that snake skin, I mean, you were there in person, but if it was 6 foot a skin, that snake is bigger.
Yeah, it's intimidating.
Yeah.
That's intimidating. It's like it is for spiders with me. It's like I can deal with them up to a certain size, but they grow them big out here. So when we first moved into our home, the home was vacant for 2 years, and so it had its fair share of, needless to say, infestations, both with the wolf spiders and
those ones are big.
Other little field mice that decided to make their home here, but through means we were able to take care of that. So we have a mouse and spider-free home to a point.
Yeah, that's ideal. That's funny. I know when we first started talking, you mentioned that you, in that first year, you read a lot of books just to kind of get knowledge more of how the business works. What kind of books were you reading when you first started out that maybe you could recommend to somebody else starting?
Yeah. So, honestly, I'd never been a huge reader. Small print, easy, not a
Mm-hmm.
problem, articles and such. But so I'm with Keller Williams, Greater Cleveland Northeast. That is the brokerage that I'm with. And if you know anything about Keller Williams, they're a national company. Actually, we're overseas as well. We have a ton of brokerages all over the world. And our founder, Gary Keller, teamed up with some individuals within the company, and they wrote some amazing books. And one of the biggest, changes of how I looked into my business is one that he co-authored called The One Thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of took it out of the context of real estate. And it was more of a guide in life, especially if you are getting into business. And the ideals and the thoughts that were portrayed in this book are really universal in the business world. And it was an easy read, and it basically concentrated on, you have all this stuff around you, and you have to figure out what you're good at. What is your one thing that you're good at, and concentrate on that. So for me, the selling part, the communication with clients, that's my one thing. But outside of that, for the organizational pieces, like the contracts, the keeping of the organizational piece of that, when you get to a point, not everybody can get to that point right away, have a transaction coordinator, have an admin that's able to take care of those items for you so that you can concentrate on what you do best. And in this case, it's selling real estate. So
That's awesome. Do you have anybody now to help you out with that back end stuff? I know you. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Especially now with the way that my business has been growing, I had to hire on a transaction coordinator to kind of keep me in line. And it's weird, just for the fact that, I say I'm unorganized, but I know when certain things like timelines and everything are supposed to happen. And when you have somebody on the back end handling all of that for you, I'm still checking as due diligence as you should, to make sure everything's going off without a hitch, especially when you have other co-brokes calling and, your clients saying, has this been done? We're waiting on this. And it's just been nice. It's taken a lot of the pressure off of me to make sure that everything is done. And it's giving me back time to be able to do the things that I want. And namely, and what real estate has given me is the flexibility to have more time with my family.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things that is so important to me. I mean, my kids will grow up knowing that both myself and my wife, we were home always. We were always there. And that's one of the biggest takeaways from all of this that I can get, and still be able to provide and do the things that we need to do as a family. It's allotted me that opportunity, and I'm forever thankful for real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome that you guys are able to do that. If you could start over your first year with all the knowledge that you have today, what would you do differently? What's one thing that you would change?
That's a great question. I would say the one thing that I would change, well, actually, you know what? I wouldn't change anything.
Okay.
Honestly, we go through life and we can go back, we can look at our mistakes, our failures, and feel like we should go back and change. What could we change? And I think it's more or less in that question is what you did got you to this point you're at now.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you're failing, succeeding, or succeeding and failing, you're learning valuable lessons throughout the whole experience to make those future experiences or those future decisions. I want to say you have a better background understanding of how to get to that point.
Yeah.
And what you need to do. So yeah, I believe in failing forward.
Awesome.
So,
I like it.
That's perfect.
I like it. How can people get a hold of you?
So there's a couple different ways people can get a hold of me. Obviously, by phone, but email. It is jlaboe@kw.com. I'm also on Facebook at Jay LaBoe Sells, and you can also hit me up on Instagram. You'll see a lot of stuff on there as well, and that is my last name, first name, BoeJ at Instagram.
That's awesome. I like it. Hey, thanks for coming on and sharing your story with us today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on today, guys. I really enjoyed this.
Are these working?
All right.
Here we go.
Oh, there we go. I think they're working. Should we tell them?
Mine keeps falling. It doesn't like my voice.
What do we got to tell them?
Subscribe.
Subscribe. What do we got to point at? Hey, I think there's a subscription button. Like
It might be there.
might be right there too.
Somewhere.
Somewhere.
Find it. It's red.
Yeah. And it's
Red.
blue. It's green. I don't really know.
It's a color.
This mic isn't even attached. Did you plug these in? Well, I guess.
I wonder if they can hear us.
Yeah. I wonder if they hear us. Well, we should probably tell them if they can hear us. We should probably tell them also give us a 5-star review if they're listening on Apple. That'd be cool.
5 stars,
review.
guys.
Share it with everybody they can think of.
We won't take
But-
4 stars.
I mean, Taylor, I don't even think these are on. I mean,
No, I don't think this is working.
This is not working.
Yeah.